Hello and welcome to the first deck profile of EX5. Joined by me today, Terrence, one of my teammates, and he took this Mitamamon deck to a winner box and he came third place. So I figured I would showcase the deck for you guys since it's a very cool deck, and I feel like not a lot of people are cooking Mitama. Terrence, go introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Terrence or Terry, the best slash only slash favorite yellow player of Fanboy 3. And Mitamamon has been something that's been really interesting for me to play because it lets me use a lot of the cool pieces that have been released in like BT13, EX5 for it. And I think it's definitely an interesting option to play around with.
Okay.
I could just sort of go into the profile, starting off with the eggs. I only play the 4 Kyaramon. It is the best egg for this deck because, one, you want to have jamming at all points of time, and two, you can trigger the jamming pretty easily because you can quite. EX5 has given us a line that lets you trigger trashing cards like pretty more consistently rather
Mm-hmm.
than before you had to have like blinding ray or hope your opponent swings in. And because your guys are so small and a lot of your triggers are when attacking triggers, you want to ensure your Digimon survives those checks.
Mm-hmm. Did you drop out from the Tokomon at any point?
Not particularly, because I actually don't think I'd be able to trigger the Tokomon as much because you're not necessarily always adding a card to your security
Okay.
when you're trashing them. If you did want to go for another egg, I did consider perhaps like say the Upamon because you'll probably get three or fewer.
Mm-hmm.
A lot sooner than say triggering the recovery slash adding to your security.
Sure.
To go on to the rookies, I played 12, that being the 4 BT14 Patamon, the 4 BT13 Kudamon,
Mm-hmm. Those are two.
3 BT 13 Leomon,
Mm-hmm.
and at your request, at least one Pillamon from BT9, the Floodgate.
Yep.
Um, they're all sort of, I think, the Padamon's pretty standard. It's the way to accelerate into your level 4. It removes a card from your security, often triggering some of your effects. And just getting that plus adding, giving you an additional memory, helps with some of your plays. Um, the Kudamon is just your searcher. It's pretty nice. You know, you need to see pieces. Hopefully, you should get a +1 off of it most times because we're playing about 6 Tamers in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are only two not or three non-vaccine Digimon in the deck.
That's not bad.
The Pillamon, it was just there in case, as you suggested, there might be Anubismon. I saw like I think some of the players were playing like there was Fenrir and things, so it might have come up. Realistically, my initial list was playing 4 Lylemon. Lylemon is a really interesting card because its effect is when a card removed from your security stack once per turn, you gain 1 memory, and its inheritable is the same as the Kudamon if there's fewer total cards in the security stacks. When you consider doing minus 2000 DB for the turn. So the inheritable is nice, but I think there's been several situations where just gaining an extra memory by having this out is will give you the push you need.
Mm-hmm.
Or like for example, there's some moments where like I digivolve the Patamon in the back and I want something to play. So if I don't have the spoilers BT14 TK, I could just play Vilemon. Past 3, they get even if they pass me back to 1, I raise. If I get the Digivolution, I gain a memory of the Patamon, a memory of Leo, effectively memory fixing me for that turn,
That's
which
really
lets
good.
me do a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely really been a really good card and it
Um,
really performed well.
so before going off into the champions, I think the Pillowmon, you said that for your matchups. What were your matchups before we continue?
So I played against Blue Flare, Yellow Hybrid, and then Greymon,
Mm-hmm.
a toolbox kind of deck. So for those matchups, it didn't come up, but I can see the merit of playing it. But I'm typically this sort of build was just sort of like proof of concept. I want all sort of combo pieces to
Mm.
see what I could work with or work without.
Right, that makes sense. I think a lot of people also are a little bit hesitant to bring or build Anubis because it's very much like a limited time deck. Like the deck will only be viable for a format and like a little bit. So I think not a lot of people want to invest into building it just because the deck will be effectively dead
Yeah,
after.
that's Yeah, that's definitely true.
Are there any other rookies that you would have liked to play? Maybe like a Cutemon or I don't know,
Um,
any other random rookies, like
um,
the Kudamon from the set, the Kudamon from
so
EX5.
so that one's interesting. The EX5 Kudamon, which if you have like 6 or fewer total security, you can play a Tamer. It it's okay, but I don't think it really has a place in this build because honestly, I'm not playing the Richard Samson, which I think is kind of designed to play so you can warp into the uh, Kentaurus more quickly. But that card doesn't really feel good for me. At least at this, it's a bit too slow.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in a different kind of deck, or maybe which I might be working on, it'd be better. But I don't think it's useful in this particular build.
Okay.
Only cards I might have considered was I think there's a Kudamon. I can't remember. I think it's either BT. I want to say 3 or BT
The one that
4.
bot decks the Kentauros.
Yeah. Oh, so there's the promo one which blocks Kentaurus to recover. That is one option. I don't think we play enough Kentaurus ones, but that could be something if you want a bit more recovery. There is a Kudamon that I think is on play that you can trash top card security to reduce something by 2. Because
Mm.
while you can get a lot of your DP reduction is again based on when attacking, which is sometimes really awkward. You have to sometimes risk the stack, or you have to like pray that it doesn't die to like security. So something that just has an on-play trigger to reduce DP would be quite useful, and the Kudamon name might come up.
Okay.
Um, or the last one would be if you didn't want, like someone say didn't like the like Lyle mons, I did consider the Electron from BT14, which just has the like base inherit of just when attacking do minus 2k, because sometimes again having 6 total security is a little situational. We've gotten more consistently there, but just having no conditions reduce something by 2, especially in the early game, can be really useful.
Okay. Sure thing. Moving on to the champions.
Yeah. I think I should be playing 11 champions.
That's not too bad.
So we have the 4 EX5 Repamon, the 4 BT6 Bulkmon, we have 2 BT6 Mimicmon, and then the one of
Rapid.
BT8 Rapidmon.
Yep.
Um, so
How was
the
the lineup?
the rep, so the best card is definitely this Repamon, 100%. Um, So the Repamon, for those you don't know, it's one attacking effect is by trashing the top card of your security. For the turn, when one of your Digimon would next Digivolve, you can reduce the Digivolution by 2. This helps so much in a lot of games. It just helps you get up, effectively Digivolving into level 5 for 1 level, or like some of your level 6s if you have the stack. Even Digivolving another rookie into a champion for free has been really good at just getting to your like OTKs quicker, getting
Mm-hmm.
to your level 6 quicker. It's definitely the MVP, and its inheritable is another same of the 6 for your total security reduced by 2, which is great for the consistency of the line. So I think at least 2 of my Digimon, all my level 3 and level 4 slots have that kind of reduction. It's just an good at accelerating your game. Being a 4 cost to play is not awful. It means that in some games where I didn't have a rookie, at least it didn't feel too bad to hard slam. It's definitely the best piece. I think this is one of the best pieces that came out for Yellow. Vaccine generally in EX5 as well. I think it's something that a lot more lists should play around with.
Okay. It's a very good like ramp card. Like it feels like that's usually the case for yellow. Yellow has very strong like level 4s.
Mm-hmm. So this is really good. Then we played the 4 Bulkmon because I was feeling greedy and I just wanted to OTK. Plus, in terms of the game plan of getting to 6 or fewer, typically you can swing for 2 checks, putting your opponent at 3, digivolve into one of my level 5s, trash security, restand, putting yourself at like 4, and then if you go into the sort of Mitamamon or something for 6s, you're basically reach that 6 within one turn, which is really nice. Um, there is maybe a world where I would cut it maybe 1 because past like the early game, realistically, it's not that great. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have an inheritable. But again, for just pure consistency and wanting to see it either in my hand or in my security, I played 4.
Okay.
The 2 Mimic Mons
This
are
is the
just
most
here for.
this is the most
Sorry?
interesting card for sure.
Yeah, so it's really good. I used to play it in one of my old decks before, but its effect is on play. If you have three or fewer security cards, you gain two memory. Which, if you're playing the game right, you should be at your three within that turn. It's been really good to play off of Mitamon's effect because you can just digivolve, drop it, potentially keep turn. Plus, it gains rush off the Mitamon, so you can swing. It's just a nice body. It's effectively a yeah, it's effectively a two cost when you're three or fewer. So sometimes you can, if you have enough memory, you can just hard play this, get into an ultimate, and then potentially a mega, which has been very useful. The only actual downside to it in this deck is that it's a virus, so it's not searchable, and you can't evolve into it from your security. But I think it was worth the sort of inconsistency to play this because it's a really good extender card.
Okay, I've seen like I think that is fair considering that if you open that card with your when you first do your tempo turn, you immediately like for example you with the Repamon evolving to a 5 for a cost of 1, and then if you have the Mitama to then immediately play out the Mimic, you then get 2 memories, so you get to your level 6 like relatively quickly.
So yeah, it was definitely a good card. I think there was a moment where it was going to be three mimics just to see it,
Mm-hmm.
but I decided to just play the one of Rapidmon because it was just that I again realized that I don't have much DP reduction without attacking. So this was just
Mm-hmm.
something I could potentially play level 3 off of the Mitamamon or another card in my deck. Just slap this down if I have a Tamer, suspend something, reduce a couple things by 5, which has been very useful. The Armor Purge sometimes comes up. I think this is a really interesting niche scenario where I had a Lylemon, was able to like digivolve into this cheaply, swing it, Armor Purge down, then go into like a Repamon, swing, trash security, gain a memory. It's definitely was a really good utility slot. I think perhaps in the future I'd probably make another one.
I think that's
Um,
fair.
because it's just you need that versatility. I think it definitely helps, and even some matchups, especially like say, I sometimes struggle against black decks or like Wargrey in general because they're big blockers. I can't typically sometimes it can't be DP reduced,
Mm-hmm.
but this gives you suspension just to sort of ignore that threat or potentially swing into it to get rid of it, which is really nice.
And it's also very good for deterring the opponent to clear that body, so then you have like ace plays. But we'll see if you're playing any aces when we get to the level 5s.
Yeah. Um, yeah. For any other fours, I think I'd play the deck. There's probably a lot. You could potentially play the BT14 Angemon just as removal and
Mm-hmm.
potentially pseudo recovery. I think you said you mentioned trying to list with the is it the Gatomon?
Yes, the
The
Gatomon from the Mastermon structure deck. That card,
yeah. If
it's almost like a Repamon that you don't. They have similar value in the sense that like they let you go into your 5s for a cost of 1. Just the Repamon has to swing, the Gatomon doesn't, but the Gatomon is more expensive, doesn't have the shrink as an inherent. The cards have their ups and downs. They go in different builds. I think for your build specifically, the
yeah.
Repamon seems to be like the
Oh,
perfect fit.
yeah. Yeah, I think like the level fours can be tailored to whatever your build can be because I think Mitamamon can be built aggressively, defensively, however you'd like. I would typically just try to stick within ignoring these. Stick within the vaccine package because you do want to get that ramp off the Patamon and you got to abuse the engine as long as you have it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it for my champions. On to the ultimates. I only play 7, that being the 4 EX5 Kirinmon and the 3 BT3 Angelomon.
Ooh, this is a sauce.
Yeah. So we'll go with the card that's a bit more unknown. The
The brand
EX5
new.
Kirinmon. Yeah. So its effect is pretty simple. When digivolving by trashing the top card of your security stack, you can unsuspend this Digimon. So that's really good for a lot of reasons. One, again, being able to trash the security at will is quite nice. Two, it's how you get your aggression in, because ideally your perfect stack is something like this with a Kiaromon underneath. You can swing for 2 checks. If you've done this off a power one, typically where you'll have like 2 or 3 memory. So you swing for 2 checks, swing, unsuspend. You can swing again if you want to, doing the third check. And typically in that way, again, you're getting to the 6 or fewer security threshold a lot quicker. And even just generally being having unsuspend at this level has been really useful, just either for closing out games, honestly, just for protecting the stack, because sometimes it's like, oh, if I swung previously, I past my opponent, like say 2 or 3 memory, they might be able to swing over and I'm left with nothing. But unsuspending is quite nice. But the other really reason it's good in the deck is it's inheritable, so it's one attacking once per turn. If there are 6 or fewer total security cards in both players' stack, you may place one yellow card from your hand on top of your security stack. This has been really, really good for so many reasons. I'm not playing any sort of like recovery options, but this effectively, I don't need it with this. You can just stack something to the top. I've used it to stack like a TK to get a bit more search. I've used it to stack some of the options that I play, which have been very useful. I think even one point I used it to stack like I've had 2 stacks out. I've used it to stack, say, like another Mitamamon or something like that to the top to then digivolve into from either the Patamon, Messenger of Hope, which you'll see later. It's just been a very versatile piece, and this is why it's a 4 of. I think it's the most flexible
It's
4 I
definitely
can play for this build.
It's definitely the target level 5.
Yeah, definitely. And then the 3 BT3 Angelmon, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's just I've been playing this card for too long. For anyone that doesn't know, it's one Digivolving is only Pokemon get 3 attack -2 until the end of the turn, which is good. To cover it, we need to sort of scout our opponent's bodies. This is one way to do that. But the main reason why we do play it is that when attacking, if you have 3 or fewer security cards, you can play a yellow level 3 from your hand without paying its memory cost. So you can play your Kudamons for extra searches, you can play the Lylemons potentially to combo off with, like, say, the Kentaurusmon and stuff, where you can swing, play out the Lylemon, trash your securities, gain additional memory from that play. It's just been it's felt like one of the better level 5s to play in this slot. I mean, you could have options. You could play the BT3 Rise if you want that aggression, but I don't necessarily think you need the extra security attack. It doesn't, especially when it requires 3 Tamers, which you can't always guarantee. But being at 3 or fewer security is something that you have much more control over.
It's very, very easy to like try to make it online these days, like with this style of Mitamamon like package. Before, I think Yellow used to struggle a little bit. It was always considered like a late game option. Now it's like it's good. It's a good card.
Yeah. I think for this particular build, it's perfect. There may be a moment where I might want to play an additional level 5, maybe just one additional one.
Like an ace, for example. I see you're not playing any aces.
Yeah. So I wouldn't play. So I'm not playing the Angemon Ace, but which I can understand some people's arguments to play it. But my issue is I actively reduce my own security, so I get diminishing returns on its reduction. Sure, it might be like I might be able to get a 2 or 3 reduction, but in the grand scheme of things, to me, I don't think it's worth the potential overflow risk when I can just be more aggressive, swing, and be a bit more ignorant.
That makes sense.
Whereas if I have the overflow, I'm like, I could pass turn from this if something goes wrong.
It's almost like we're getting a level 6, ace in BT15 that might slot into this deck pretty nicely.
It'll be. Oh yeah, I wish it. I can't wait for that thing to come out. It's gonna be perfect. I think that will be definitely an additional slot. We'll have to work on that.
Digimon Ace, for those that don't know, that card I think is like amazing in this deck.
Oh, definitely, 100%.
And the
I can't
too.
wait. It's all. I think my hardest moment. I think is just gonna be finding space for everything. But it's definitely this deck definitely does improve when you get BT15. You get a couple of new options, which will be really nice.
Okay. Now for the 6s. Now I think a lot of people, there are like 2 main ways to like look at the deck, which is either you focus more on like the Kentaurusmon with the Mitamamon, or you go into more Venus route. What did you choose to do?
I chose to be on the fence about that, and why not play all of them? So we play 3 of the new Mitamamon, and then we played 2 Kentauros, and then 2 Venusmon.
And how did this work out for you?
I feel this is the perfect split because Mitamamon is like the main piece you want to get to early game, late game, mid game, whichever one. You always want to get to the Mitamamon. For those of you that don't know what Mitamamon does, 1 digivolving and 1 attacking once per turn. By trashing the top card of your security stack, you may play 1 yellow level 4 or lower from your hand without paying the memory cost. Digimon played by this effect gained much for the turn, which is insane.
So
It's made
good.
so many things so much better. Like, it's definitely something that Yellow needed to help finish out games. And then its other effects are all turns, all my Yellow Digimon gain Barrier. So I thought Barrier would be kind of useless, but for certain things it's been very good. You know, keeping it means that they can't necessarily swing over your Mitamamon, which is very useful for the last effect I'll get onto. It means you can swing with like a level 4 stack, keep it going, and then Digivolve into a 5, maybe go into the Kiramon to spend, and keep pushing damage that way.
Hmm.
So it definitely came up a lot more than I thought. But one of the main things that makes Mitamamon good, and why people might hate it because it's yellow and everything, is that it's also a floodgate. So, opponent's turn, all of your opponent's Digimon with a level greater than or equal to the total cards in both play security stack gain security attack -2. Which is really funny when you think about it, because most people misread this card.
Yeah.
They typically think it should be, less. So when I'm at 0 security and they're at like 2, they just start swinging and I have to sit there and go, so all your level 2s and higher basically can't do anything,
I mean, they can
which has
still
been...
trigger the evo effects. They
Oh,
just don't have damage with them.
they don't have damage, which is very crucial in some matchups. But then again, that's why we have, to
Venus.
pair with the Venusmon. So Venusmon being the other floodgate you need to give all your opponents Digimon security attack -1, and then on your opponent's turn, any of your opponent's Digimon with security attack modifier, whether it be plus or minus, can't activate their when attacking or when digivolving effects, and can target Venusmon for attacks.
It's
So this is a very good card to pair with Mitamamon, because you effectively go, if you're at that low state, like say if you're having 0 or 1 security and your opponent having like 2, all of their level 3s and higher cannot activate their one attacking or one digivolving effects, which makes this a very oppressive board like way for them to get through,
it's
because they either have to have on plays, which sometimes comes up, and I admit like that we can't beat everything,
hmm
but it's definitely difficult to play around.
I think Venus definitely feel it's like in it's usually a card that like stops like the opponent from like their tempo turns. Like Venus is very good at like stopping your opponent from like raising out and doing their thing. But a lot of the times Venus by itself doesn't win games. Venus with Mitamamon is like
Oh,
super strong.
it is definitely a win condition, and that's why some people might just focus on like that,
Hmm.
which I can understand. But for me, as you know,
The
I
horse gaming.
yeah, Kentaro Swan has been sick. So this is, especially with the packages in the deck to accelerate and get into your like level 6s much quicker.
Hmm.
Kentaros is definitely really good in your like, I was going to say only your early and mid game, but even in the late game, because, so for those of you who don't know what he does, on play when digivolving, if there are 6 or total fewer cards in the security stacks, you gain 3 memory, then you reveal 1 card in your hand, hits yellow, place it top of your security stack, and then when attacking once per turn by trashing the top card of your security stack, you can do a -7,000 DP reduction to one of your opponent's Digimon and unsuspend. So this is your aggro push, this is your board clear, this is your battering ram, this is your pseudo recovery.
It's the
It
finisher.
does, yeah, it does so much for one card. This just means, I think these having this 2-2 split just means you have your perfect offense and defense.
Hmm.
So much you have so much flexibility with, like, if I just played the Kentaros Mon, there'd be definitely some games I would have lost because I couldn't control like them having a stack in the back and they raising, like, they kill me. With Venus Mons, like, sure, I've stunned you for a turn, but I can't remove the bodies. Sometimes, I'm not even gonna lie, there's been games where I've just played where it's just these two soloing the matchup. I didn't even tell them at all. So I think the 2-2 split has been really good for the deck. The only alternative I think some people might consider would be the like there's BT4 Wargreymon, which
Oh,
does
oldie but
kind of a
goodie.
similar thing. Yeah, he does a kind of similar thing. It does 1k less, but it costs less to digivolve into, and you add the card to your hand, so you still trigger the removal effects, but you still get a resource. The only reason I think I wouldn't pick that card in this particular build is because that, one, Kentaur's gaining memory has been very useful. 2, the pseudo recovery is nice. But 3, Kentaurosmon in the late game will most likely always be able to get its reduction effect because it fuels itself. You place a card into your security, which you can then trash to then unsuspend and swing again. Whereas the Wargreymon can't, and that's been a very important part of like loads of my games, I think, that I've played either online or in the tournament.
Okay.
And then, so that's all I play, but just while we're going for it, we play one level 7, best guesses. It's Shangri on Ruin Mode. There's not really much to say about Ruin Mode, he's just more reduction.
This is a good card.
Um, it's a good card. Like, I think these effectively act as, like, these are the, I'm stopping you for one turn so I can kill you, or I'm stopping you one turn so I can get set up. So it's been very useful then. Again, the recovery being really big is nice. And also, again, little things like I think there's been situations where you can do cool things where you can make this cheaper by Mitamamon, trashing security, playing Repamon, swinging, trashing another one to then reduce the next evolution by 2, so you can then potentially digivolve on top of here if you need to, for reduced cost of 3, potentially choking your opponent and giving less memory, while still getting the Rumo blanket effect. So it's definitely worth the 1-up slot.
Oh,
Because of the Kudamon and how quickly you get through the deck, I typically saw it whenever I needed it. So it was definitely a really good inclusion to the deck.
no Death X, for example. I've seen some builds that choose to play like a Death X as a way to sort of like get back into the game.
I can definitely see it as just being an option. I think for me, I just went with this card is a yellow vaccine, so it's searchable, it's stackable off my effects. Like,
Fair enough.
I just think it was, I think it was just definitely a good choice, but
Okay,
I could see you can find room for Death X if you needed to.
sure thing.
So that's all the Digimon, and
Tamers
then
and
we get
options.
into Tamers and options. There's not really much interesting here. I'm not really going to say much. For my Tamers, it's 6 Tamers, 3 BT1 TK and 3 BT14 TK.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Once again, it's if you're playing the vaccine engine, you need to play it realistically
The
should
TKs.
play the TKs because it helps you set up. Getting choke your Eventually even just doing this as a starting play to choke your opponent to like 2, which is very nice, and gaining memory just helps accelerate turns. It's definitely a very useful card.
Scales incredibly
Ideally,
well in multiples.
yeah, definitely. It just like I've been there's turns when I've gained I think 4 memory with with like a Patamon TK combination, and then that just gives you the push you need to do whatever you need to that turn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like, and again, I think it's just a good starter play, especially if you have something like I don't know, Lyle out. You can play this. You effectively can play this TK for 1 if you need to, or like or you want to have this to be paired with your Patamon. Like I think that's definitely something that you want to do. So I played 3 because I felt 4 was a bit too much for the too much. I think once 3 is the sweet spot, like, so I can see it often enough or hit insecurity without eventually like clogging.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one, again, it's just a standard. You
It's
search your
TK.
security stack, it's TK.
It's the best yellow
Memory
tamer.
Fixer, consistently. It's the best yellow tamer so far. Um, so those are the tamers, and then options, again, nothing special. I played 3 physical training and 3 emissary of hopes.
No blinding ray.
So I can Blinding Ray is, I think, a good card, but these cards have security effects, which is just generally very important. Like just getting to play this and well as being so like for example, if these were blinding rays, there's definitely a lot of games which I would have probably lost because this has searched me into a piece that I needed on that turn to go into, like the Rune mode or the Kentaurus mode or the Venus, and like effectively it does the same thing for what I want to do, which is digivolve into something else. And then the emissaries themselves, again, if they were replaced, I think emissary just being a 1 digivolve is insane.
Insane.
Just you can load your security with a couple of effects like the Kirimon and Kintaro spawn, so you can really like manipulate your security in that aspect. Being able to free play a Patamon on like a swing could potentially get you back into the game. And if you don't have a TK, which is probably very rare, again, this is just another way to get another card on your security stack, because if you don't have
Just
a TK or a Tamer, you don't like recover. So you could just lower your own security that way in a pinch if you need to. So Blinding Ray is good, but I just think these fit the build perfectly.
sure.
I think there might be some where I have to might find maybe 1 or 2 defensive options, just because I had to rely on basically, as bad as this sounds, I had to rely on outplaying my opponent rather than going, oh, I have a cool option in my security that might
There's
help.
no sack factor to your deck.
No, not. I mean, no, not really. It's largely just I had to play well or obviously run hot to do well.
I think like the only punishes that the opponent could have is like if your security has like two like firecracker effects, where it's basically like training plus TK, then that could be a big punish for the opponent.
Yeah, they still have impact. It's not like removing a body impact, but it means that if I can play well and navigate it, I think I should be able to get back into the game. Um, I think the only thing I would play an option for in this format would just generally be potentially against maybe Anubismon stuff that I think it'll be a very awkward matchup. That one's probably more just I have to run harder than them at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Or again, I don't think it will happen. But if someone plays a Fenglongbon on me, I'm like, well, this is not good.
Very tricky.
But
You should be able to
but
outpace that deck, hopefully.
yeah, hopefully. But oh, speaking of, that's another level 6 I said I would consider. I considered playing the Azulongbon Ace as just a one-off.
Neat.
In this, because I think that again you can end on like a lot of level 5s, level 4s, like with your Kyrianmon or Angelmon, especially when you're with Mitamamon. So I think having that just surprise factor if they try to swing in or do something would be pretty decent. So that's maybe another option I might consider if I can find the space.
Okay. Thanks, Terry, for the deck profile. A very in-depth like Mitamamon deck profile for the folks that are looking to pick this deck up. Now you have it all here. You know how to build it, and I should have a video out at some point as sort of like a demonstration on how the deck works. Thanks, and I'll see you guys in the next one.